So I had these thoughts in my head, right? So and it was a tragedy, right? It was a tragedy that left me sleepless the night I had this conversation. So I used to have a buddy when I was about 18, 19 years old that I used to run around with, kick up dust with, have fun, banter, talk, whatever, right? I moved away from that town, moved, and naturally over time, you just kind of the contact kind of goes away, right? You don't see each other. I didn't go back to that town ever again. I didn't want to, so naturally, I wasn't gonna bump into him anytime soon. Anyhow, we run into each other on social media. We exchange numbers. I give him a call. We're talking, and I'm thinking to myself, like, so much time has gone by, that more than 10 years that I was like, for sure, like, people outgrow, their stupidity, right? They make something of themselves. They become something. They become a man, right? I'm talking to this guy, and he tells me that he's still doing hard drugs, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, how is somebody still stuck in the same spot? Because I used to think that, like, okay, I never dabbled in that stuff. I never messed around with any hard drugs. But I used to think, oh, this is just a phase. These guys will kind of see through it and realize it's ridiculous. It's poison. Why would you do this to your body? All right. And so when he's saying that to me, I'm thinking to myself all the while, like, how could you, excuse me, how could you allow this to happen for this long and not think that there's something wrong? Okay. So he tells me this, and I'm just thinking about it like, you have children. You're still living in your parents' house in the same room that we used to hang out when we were 18, 19 years old. You're still in that situation. Yeah, sure, you got a job, but you're basically a functioning addict, right? You haven't, and then when I ask him, like, why are you still doing that stuff? Like, don't you have enough reasons to stop? And it's just like, he was just too weak, too mentally weak to give up this addiction, right? So at this point, it's like he's gripped by the devil. He doesn't have the power within himself. And so I tell him, well, then ask God to help you out. If you can't do this on your own, then you need an external source to help you will yourself out of this situation, because this is frankly ridiculous that you're almost quite literally in the same spot you were when you were 18, 19 years old. And this is a lesson for young guys out there that think that they can do these things and get away with them and think there's no consequences. There is, because the reality is you could be stuck in a spot like that. I mean, him saying that, I could feel the pain of not being able to will yourself forward, to make yourself a man, to be that mentally weak. And the only thing I could say is, look, obviously I'm not in that situation. I've never been addicted to drugs in that capacity, right? Especially not heavy drugs. Was that maybe the expectation that this is supposed to be easy to stop doing is the problem. Maybe you should tell yourself, my life is going to be miserable. I'm going to suffer. I'm going to struggle. And it's not going to be easy. That, it may be in itself, liberate yourself from the pressure, may make yourself, get out of a situation like that. But frankly, it was a tragedy, because it was disappointing to hear from someone and think to myself, like, that someone cannot make those changes. After all these years, you still couldn't make the changes that you need to do, right? Like, how are you still doing that? How are you still allowing yourself to be dragged like that, to not have control over your own being? I thought that was it was difficult to listen to, and like I said, it was tragic, and I couldn't even sleep, not because I felt bad, but because I was bothered by the fact that I was listening to that I was hearing someone sound so defeated. Like, it was just almost like he had no capacity to react. And yeah, man, it's just like I said, it's just a lesson to the guys out there, and like a lesson for him as well. Like, the opportunity to make something of yourself, to change your circumstances, is always available, but the window is closing, because at the end of the day, if you've continued to go this route your entire life so far, 10 plus years, right? At this point, you're just going to continue to do that until you die, right? These habits that he's cultivated. So it's like, yeah, you can change, but it's gonna be harder. You find less reasons to stop, right? If you've gotten this far. So, like I said, I mean, I don't wish that on anybody. I don't wish that on anybody. I hope he gets the necessary strength within himself to get out of that situation. But let this be, like I said, let this be a lesson that don't play these kind of games. Don't play these kind of games with your life, because it literally goes by and you're still doing the same thing. And there's something really disturbing about a man that cannot will himself to a better place, right? And it's interesting, right? Because it also took me back a bit, because like it shows me how much I've changed, right, from where I was to where I am now. And not to say that I was ever in a position like that, but to be around that type of environment and see how a lot of people have gone that route and never made it out is kind of scary, right? Because it's like that's how close I was to getting gripped by the same ghost, right? And so there's something in that, right? There's something to that, that perhaps you need to be very mindful of your environment, right? It's not just the people you're around, but the places you're in, right? That could change everything, right? That could alter your entire life trajectory, right? And so, yeah, I mean, it's just fascinating to see that there are people that can continue to function so dysfunctionally, right? Because nothing about that is normal. Nothing about that is okay. All right. And yeah, I mean, but it is a scary thought, right? That someone could end up that route. But like I said, understand that this is something that you have the power to change, right? If you're in a situation like that, that you can ultimately alter your destiny, right? By understanding that this is gonna be ugly, this is gonna be difficult. Anyways.